from the back of Ruth the Realtor's car, it's the Stacking Deed Show. I'm Ruth's neighbor and part-time mechanic, Neighbor Doug, broadcasting live from our spacious, luxurious recording studio in the trunk. Today, we have a mating and mortgage expert hopping in the car, talking about mortgage before marriage. We learn how to delicately have those difficult conversations around real estate investing with your potential partner with expert Alex E. Edwards. In our headlines, we talk failed expert real estate predictions and what that means for your investment planning. Plus, we listen in on a caller ringing Ruth's Rotary about using her 401k for buying a house. Is that a good idea? We'll find out. But first, did you know that on this day in history in 2010, Japan had the first marriage done by robot? That's a coincidence because robots are the only thing I dated all through college. Their names were Alexa and Siri, and well, let's just say we're still working things out, once the power comes back on. And now, let's go to our podcast hosts and the experts of doing the robot, my favorite pop and lock dance move. We have our hosts, Alan Corey and Crystal Hammond.
Well, thank you, Doug. And again, Doug does not know me well because I said Zumba. He must have thought I said Roomba. I don't know where he got that I was an expert at the robot. So hi, everybody. It's me, Condo Crystal, at Condo Crystal in these streets. And next to me is Alan at Real Estate Maxi. Hey, Alan. How are you?
Hey, good. I'm curious to see what the Roomba dance would be. I guess you're just walking around with your eyes closed around a dance floor. You're not the robot expert?
No way, right. You walk around with your eyes closed, bumping into things. Like that sounds like the drunk, not...
Yeah, well, that probably is how you would categorize my dance moves these days on the dance floor.
He must have his eyes closed.
Yeah. Everyone else should have their eyes closed, witnessing my attempt at dancing. But... yeah, we've got a fun show today in the back of Ruth's car here. So I'm excited to talk to Alex E. Edwards coming up. And we've got some good trivia questions. But first, let's go to our headlines here.
Hello, chaps. And now our Stacking Deeds headlines. Cheerio and pip pip.
You found this headline, Crystal, didn't you?
Yes, so this one comes to us from Yahoo Finance. This piece was written by Lance Lambert. He says things are getting really weird in the housing market. So, as you know, most of the analysts, they expected 2023 to be a rough year for the housing market. And actually, out of the 29 major housing forecasting models, 24 forecasted a national home price decline for 2023. But I mean, the year has flown and so far that has not happened. So I guess they're saying what's going on for starters, housing affordability has improved as the average 30-year mortgage term. Apparently it was 7.37% in November and it's back down to 6.5%. Do you think the interest rates are at play here for one of the reasons, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, typically when interest rates go down, housing prices go up. And when interest rates go up, housing prices go down. But we have not really seen that steep decline of the housing price as we have with the steep increase of the interest rate. So everyone's prediction for this year is off so far. Like, why is this not happening? This is sort of why I don't read the predictions or the daily news, because no one knows. For the last 10 years, when the interest rates went from 7.5 to 7 to 6.5 to 6 to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2.5, every week you can find an article like, this is going to not change, this is going to be reversed, and now's the time to get out. The housing's going to crash. And here we are 10 years later, and it hasn't crashed. It doesn't mean it won't, but what it does mean is no one knows. No one ever knows. And there's so many other things at play besides interest rate. There's still a housing shortage, right? I mean, there's only so many houses that can fit a family, and life goes on regardless of what's happening in the economy, regardless of what's going on in interest rates. People still get married, still have kids, still outgrow their homes, still want to move across country, still get job transfers. There's places that people need to live. And if you go in and there's only 3 houses for sale and you've got 20 buyers. Well, yeah, sure. You're going to get 10 offers on every single house in some cases. So it's one of those things where I'm always, at least for real estate investing, I don't care about interest rate. And when I say I don't care, a good interest rate doesn't mean it's a good deal. Like I can find a terrible deal with 0% interest rate, but I can also go find a great deal with a 20% interest rate. It's a variable. And if you're locking in something for 30 years at fixed in terms of a mortgage and it cash flows in today's environment, it'll probably always cash flow because if interest rates go down, I can refinance. But if interest rates go up, I don't care because I've got a locked 30-year mortgage interest rate. I'm not buying to flip a property. I'm not evaluating a property because it's going to go up or down. That's appreciation investing. And people do that. That's not my thing. I'm cash flow investing. And so I just want the steady $100 here, $500 here on deals. I'm not going for the home runs. Like I'm buying this house because I think it's going to double in price because of appreciation. And so it's a different way of investing. And so to me, this stuff doesn't cause me stress. It doesn't keep me up at night. How do you look at it?
Well, I think you bring up a great point because if you are investing just going off these models, let's say you find a great deal and you're like, oh, but the forecaster, the economy says this, but what are you looking at, in front of your face? Because the piece actually goes, they talk about different zip codes. They talk about Georgia. They're like among the 665 Georgia zip codes that are tracked by Zillow. So 68% saw a home price increase between December 2022 and March 22. But then the other Georgia zip codes, they saw a home price decrease. So they do this for a whole bunch of different states too. And it's like, yeah, a lot of the prices, they are seeing decreases. So if all these different models and predictions are telling you, yeah, we think there's going to be XYZ, but then when you're actually shopping and you're doing your back of the envelope math and the numbers that you're actually seeing in practice don't line up with the models, I'm not going to stop based on a prediction. I'm going to take my action based on the actual numbers that I'm seeing.
Yeah, and real estate's local. So just because something's happening in California doesn't mean it's going to be happening in DC.
True.
These are trends and they could be different everywhere. And sort of the way I look at it is like everyone's favorite real estate book, even though it's not a real estate book, but it's real estate investors' sort of entryway, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Great book. It's all about buying assets that create cash flow. You'll notice whenever everyone is buying, he makes headlines by saying the housing's going to crash. And then when no one's buying, he makes headlines by saying now's the time to buy. So his sort of MO is like, he wants to be what everyone else is doing is the opposite. Whether he follows his own advice or not, who knows? But he gets a lot of attention for it because whoever's saying the opposite thing gets a lot of attention. So I think a lot of these headlines, at least for the last 10 years about housing crashing and this is out of whack, it gets you on TV, it gets you in the headlines, but there's no ramification for mispredictions, right? So it's just noise to me, but it's interesting to see because I do think that there is some sort of house correction that's supposed to happen, but I don't know what's the catalyst for that. And when there's wars going on and then there's elections and there's all sorts of other factors that's going to affect the economy, I just can't take one prediction and build a whole business or an investing strategy around it.
That is true. And I know that Warren Buffett, he usually does the same. He's like, whenever people are being greedy, you should be stingy. And when people are being stingy, so that's usually how it works. What the masses is like, you really need to make your own decision. And a lot of times don't follow that herd.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's just sometimes difficult to figure out, are we in a peak? Not only is it difficult, it's impossible. Like you never know if you're in a peak or a valley or trends. And this is not limited to real estate. It happens in stocks. It happens in crypto. It happens in art, whatever you're investing in. This is a part of an investor. And so if you have that 30-year lens rather than the 3-month lens or even a 3-year lens, you're going to be able to sleep better at night and just say, hey, there's going to be ups and downs as part of investing. And, if you're not trying to time the market, like I've never tried to time the market, but the fact that I'm constantly buying in all markets makes me look like a genius because sometimes I timed it without knowing it. Right. So, and the ones where I mistimed it, I just hold it until I do want to sell it or it's still making me money, even though I probably could have got it at a cheaper price, but I bought it because I was happy at the time and the numbers at the time. So, It's a good discussion. I'm glad you brought this article from Yahoo Finance to us because people are talking about this.
Yep. And bottom line is always do the math. The math tells you what to do. Your answer is right there in the numbers.
All right. Well, coming up, we've got Alex E. Edwards talking about his book, Marriage Before Money. But first, let's hear from Doug in today's property pop quiz.
Take it away, Doug.
Hey there, Deeders. I'm Ruth's fetching boy, neighbor Doug, and I'm here with today's property pop quiz. According to analysis from Lending Tree that looked at 2021 census data on homeownership of singles, which gender is most likely to own a home without being married? Is it men or women? We'll find out soon, but first, I'm going to try Crystal's suggestion of learning Zumba. I got my Zubaz pants on and I'm ready to go.
Big news. We've partnered with Steadily Landlord Insurance, America's best-rated landlord insurance provider. Discover why landlords nationwide are choosing Steadily for their insurance coverage. Get a quote online in minutes at stackingdeeds.steadilypartner.com. We'll also put a link to that in our show notes. Steadily was founded by landlords for landlords and specialize in landlord insurance. They've made their mission to be the absolute best provider in the market for dwelling, umbrella, builder's risk, renter's insurance, and more. Go to stackingdeeds.steadilypartner for your white glove insurance needs.
Hey there, Deeders. It's me, neighbor Doug, Ruth's part-time mechanic and full-time neighbor. Turns out Zumba, it's got nothing to do with zebras or zookeepers or zucchini. Zero. Not gonna lie, it actually would make a good TikTok dance craze, but it did get me tossed out of the Saharan African portion of the petting zoo. Anyway, back to today's trivia question. When looking at data of sex-segregated homeownership, one gender does their homework to create more housework. So, are men or women most likely to be single homeowners? Well, when looking at 2021 census data, single women own roughly 10.7 million homes compared to single men who own 8.1 million homes. Single women win this one. And bonus, I got a new song idea for Beyonce. Ready? You gotta put a Ring doorbell on it. Am I right? I'd Zumba to that club banger all night. But first, let's go back to our hosts, Alan Corey and Crystal Hammond, who welcome today's guest, the founder of Thumbprint Realty and educator on how to overcome poverty through real estate, Alex E. Edwards.
Ruth, can you mind pulling over right there? There's my buddy, Alex E. Edwards, crossing the street. I want to see if you can come in and I can pick his brain a little bit. Alex, you want to get in the back of the car with me?
Yes. It's a lot of space around here. This is amazing.
It's deceiving, right?
I love the seats. It's pretty cool. All right, let me close the door and get this started.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me.
Well, it's just about to rain.
Yeah, perfect timing. And we have a podcast booth back here. So I like that you're able to join us today here in the ride because I wanted to pick your brain about your book, Mortgage Before Marriage, which, well, let me guess. You're saying you should go buy your house before getting married for everyone? What's your advice here?
Yeah, exactly. Mortgage before marriage, finances before fiance, Rockefeller before Beyonce, in that order. I believe that you should purchase investment real estate before you get married. I mean, let's think about it. My wife and I did the same. Our tenants paid for our wedding and they wasn't invited. And after the wedding, we still was collecting rent. So it's not like we went broke after the wedding. So I just think it's a great idea. And also, as an individual, if I have a home and my wife had a home, we're bringing something to the relationship. We don't have to work 4 jobs and never see each other because we already took care of the finances even before we said I do. So we could spend a lot of time together. Even today, my wife and I share an office, and I don't know if she ever gets sick or tired of me, but I don't get sick or tired of her.
I doubt that. Well, you can come ride with us whenever she does.
No.
I didn't know you were going there with this, but this is what I'm hearing. If say your fiance, you buy your own primary residence, your fiance buys their own primary residence, then you get married. Well, you start your relationship as an investor, right? I would assume you recommend that then two parties live in one house and you rent out the other? Is that your sort of
So
advice?
it's a couple of, so my experience, what we have done. I had a home, then my wife purchased a home right after, and then we used the rent funds. We had a couple of savings account. Then we used that to get married. And then after that, this is crazy. Some people might not want to do this. Here it goes. We first moved into the investment property that I had in the basement. We finished, we made it nice, and we moved into the basement. So we didn't even want to interrupt the rent we was collecting. So my wife got pregnant with our first child, and then we moved to her mother's home. So again, collecting more rent. And at that time, we purchased another home.
If you can find a spouse that's willing to move into a basement and then into her mother's home, I think you married well, Alex. That's probably easier said than done, but I agree. It sounds like you're making upfront sacrifices early in your relationship that's going to have big rewards in the future.
Exactly. But it was a no-brainer. And ever since we've been buying homes, especially in the pandemic, we came across another home. And we got into the Airbnb business, and that particular home really opened our eyes even more.
This is post-marriage, right?
No, this is after marriage. Yep.
Okay, so I can see that because I think a lot of spouses, well, let me say this. In relationships where I've consulted people, there's usually the dreamer, the person who wants to invest in real estate, and then there's the safer, more conservative realist who's like, why don't we put it in stocks, right? But I think you're setting up the stage excellently where you're saying, no, you each get your own house beforehand. You start your relationship as an investor. They instantly see that, the more realist one instantly sees the money that's made. And then it's like, yeah, why would we not do this again and again? You're creating a investing family from the start.
My wife was making a little over $3,000 a month in profit.
On her rental.
Rental.
Yeah.
Who would say, no, I don't ever want to do this again?
Yeah.
Not for me. I'm not marrying you.
And if you want to attract a mate, if you're single out there, like imagine having real estate investment in properties like that you're going to have some security. I'm going to give myself an hot water, I'm sure. But like finances are a big part of, do I want to marry someone? Do they understand finances? And there's so many fights around finances. This really sort of sets the stage and a foundation to build a marriage off of. I love it.
And to be honest, we obviously I had to dig deep because I wrote the book, but credit score says a lot. So if you're dating someone with kind of the same credit score you have or in the same realm, y'all might be a good match. And that's either poor or phenomenal. 800s. If you meet someone at 730 or willing to even get up to 730, y'all might be a great fit because you now know how important that credit score is. And that also means you know how important your parents' lifestyle, your responsibilities. It says a lot.
So I haven't been on a date in over 16 years.
Nah, you're joking.
Probably I was married.
You're married.
Yeah, I'm married now. But
okay.
I don't recall ever it being an appropriate time to ask the person that I was dating what their credit score was. Have times changed?
Ooh, my man. You ready for this? This is crazy. We will have unprotected sex before we feel comfortable talking about finances.
Good point. No.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. What are we doing? We will sweat with a stranger before we say, what's your credit score?
Well, I think it's because you never get to that part if you do ask that question.
Hey, so at least you coming into the situation knowing what you want then. Right.
Yeah.
If you know you only want that, then all right, you want that. But if you want a long-term relationship, we should talk about finances, how we want to raise our children, or even, what we want to do for the next 2 years. Finance is huge. It's the second most reason why people get divorced. So if I could say, all right, let me focus on the thing that would probably lead me to a divorce and fix it now before I even get married, then I probably won't get a divorce for a very long time if we actually work out and click.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. If you're at that comfort level, obviously you should be at that comfort level before you propose to someone. and make sure that you're aligned.
You should be talking about finances on the first date. And in a certain way. Certain ways you should ask. I would say if I was on a first date, my wife is Joanna. So if I'm on a first date with my wife, Joanna, Alex today would say, who do you listen to that inspires you? Do you listen to anybody that motivates you? You know, I'm understanding if she's open-minded, where her mind's at. Okay, nice. Are you like a big credit card user? Like, do you have a lot of credit cards? Do you like points? Now, I'm because I want to bring it out. I'm not going to just come out and say, what's your credit score? I'm kind of just controlling the narrative and controlling the conversation to find out who she is. Because really, that's what really matters. At the end of the day, the truth. Do you guys click or not?
So you find the perfect match, great credit score, down payment for a home. What's the conversation to say, hey, I want to get married, but go buy a property first, and I want to buy my own property?
I mean, it's a couple of ways, because you don't want to be somewhat straightforward. I guess you could be straightforward, but it depends on the kind of relationship you have with that particular person. But honestly, it's just saying, look, do you want to work forever? No, I don't either. But do we want to be together forever? Yes, I do too. I think it's best that we both buy investment properties before we get married so we could take advantage of a FHA product and we both could put down 3.5 down. And after we get married, let's see what we do next. Or we could buy more houses before we get married. What do you think?
I love this. You know, your sales pitch is, I want to spend more time with you. That's the sales pitch, right? And whoever is in love is not, everyone wants to hear that. So that's great. What do you see as the biggest sort of roadblock in making this decision?
I think one, a lot of people say, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to deal with people. I don't want any headaches. But what I always say, well, do you have headaches now? I do. Well, you had headaches before you got investment property. And yeah, you probably get headaches after you get the investment property. The difference between my headaches and your headaches is you pay for your title. My tenant pay for mine.
Yeah. Are you happy to be paid $500 a month for a
some
headache?
Tylenol?
Yeah. Like the cash flow pays you $500. You have one headache a month. Like, okay. Like maybe that's not enough for some people. Maybe it is, Yeah. You got to make that choice. And it sounds like when you got started, a house hacking approach where you buy an investment property, you live in a portion of it, and you rent it out. This is happening more and more. We've talked about this in previous episodes. We see it through Airbnbs and long-term rentals. This changed my life financially. And yeah, starting a marriage this way with a house hack is a great opportunity as well. And I know you're a realtor in the Boston market. Do you see investors and newlyweds sort of using this approach?
Well, I've been talking about my book for a very long time. And since I would say about 10 to 12 people already kind of put their marriage on hold and bought real estate. It just makes sense. They probably came to one of my conferences. They heard me speak. It just makes sense. It's a no-brainer. You do your research. Those who buy multifamilies first, they stay together longer than those who actually buy a single family first together.
Yeah, it makes financial sense. And we kind of skipped over the fact, but it's worth mentioning. A lot of newlyweds, they either have money for a one-day extravagant wedding, $20,000, $30,000, get all your friends in, the dresses, the tuxes, the flowers, or you have money to buy a house or two houses, depending on the case. And so I 100% agree. Like, yeah, we can still have a party. I mean, that party is going to be bigger if we delay it for a year and we're making rental income, right? That party is going to last in memories, maybe of, a video, a recording of some sort. But if you put that money into a house that creates cash flow, we can have a party every year. Like, we'll have enough money to pay for a party every year. Why don't we just do that and travel to visit our family or our friends? I think you just grow up. A lot of people grow up with that wedding day dream. And to me, I've always seen that being a hard sell, although I completely believe in mortgage before marriage as well.
Mortgage before marriage is for those who want to stay together and want a fighting chance. What we're talking about is what you're not going to hear. I don't want my wife to spend more time with her boss than me. And how you do that is you have to have smart investment. The easiest investment is property. It's property. The fact that you could put down 3.5 and someone will lend you $1 million is crazy. That's a bad bet. That's a bad bet.
For the bank.
Right?
Yes.
For the bank. It's a bad bet. Imagine if I said, you know what? Alan, let's have a bet. If I win, give me $100. If you win, I'll give you $3.50. You're going to say, nah, that's a bad bet. No deal. You know what I'm saying? So we have to really think about this. When we get married, we have to talk about finances. It's 2023. We need to speak about finances. If you have that conversation early, your life will be better. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we have it all figured out. Not going to say that. I'm saying that when it comes to finances, my wife and I are on the same page. We've seen highs, we've seen lows, and we're going to see better days, and we probably have some rainy days. But no matter what, my wife and I are on the same page, and we know while we sleep, we're making money.
The best part to me is that newlyweds sometimes like to point the finger at each other, but this is a great opportunity for both of them to point their finger at Alex E. Edwards if things don't work out very well. But
if things don't work out my way, that means y'all was not even supposed to be together. Y'all was not going because if y'all went the other way and spent all your money on a wedding and was broke together, y'all was broke. Love won't survive broke, so you go for it.
Yeah, it's funny the priority, like that really sets the priority of the marriage. Like, are we here to show off or to have a big party? Or are we here to really be together for the rest of our lives and spend more time with each other?
Exactly.
I didn't realize mortgage before marriage was going to be, a conversation about dating so much, but yeah, of course it is, but it's really building that foundation and making sure that you're setting you and your new spouse up for success. Alex, looks like the rain has stopped. About to drop you off. I just want to say thank you. I'm glad to run into you and appreciate you. Yeah.
Man, the guy driving, he's texting. He almost ran over the guy. What's going on? Stop texting.
Yeah, that's Ruth. She's a creature of her own and doesn't really pay attention to the signage. But I'm glad you buckled up.
All right. Well, before I go, if you ever want to pick me up again, please reach out to me on my social media, Alex E. Edwards. And if you want to purchase the book, Mortgage, the letter B, the number 4, marriage.com. And pick me up anytime. So just reach out there.
Well, it sounds good. I'll be looking around, and whenever I've got newlyweds, I'll just have Ruth drop them off at your front doorstep, and you can set them straight.
All right. See you later.
Thanks for joining us, Alex. As a serial dater myself, I totally understood where he was coming from with the knowing someone's credit score, but also I'll even take it further. When I'm on dates, I could tell someone's credit score just within the first few sentences, 9 times out of 10, because a lot of times, like, a guy will start bragging and the things they talk about, I could tell by what's important to them and what they want to brag or flex about, how their finances are doing. So I have such an easy filter for listening and observing just to know what someone's financial situation is like.
This is so interesting to me. So give me an example. What would someone say where you're like, this person has their credit score perfect?
In the toilet? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll go with perfect. Well, okay. So in the toilet, those people always want to focus and brag on the material things they have. Like, I'm not saying you're not supposed to look very nice, well put together. I would say, what is it? Quiet is more loud. They love to wear their money. So a lot of people who love to wear their money, they walk up head to toe in labels. Like, their main point and topic of conversation are labels. Like, this bag is blah, blah, blah. Most investors, most people that are smart with their money, they do not wear all their money. They don't broadcast to the world their money. They look nice, they look well put together, but it's muted. It's definitely muted. Let's see. The opposite of that, someone that's, what is that phrase when they say, like, a rich person, you would never know they're rich? I remember growing up, we wore Pro Wings. But a lot of times too, like a lot of the more richer families, it's like, oh, I never owned Jordans. And this is not a riff on people who own Jordans. Sometimes if that's the focus, like, oh yeah, so and so didn't even have on Jordans. It's like that doesn't say, much about how much money they have, or does it sometimes? So I'm going just based off of, the first thing they're going to talk about and the first thing they're going to be proud of, or whatever, are that they have things, and flashy things.
Yeah, so it sounds like people who are proud of what they own is a bad sign, but if people who are proud of what they've accomplished, that's so much better.
Exactly. It's an accomplishment kind of thing. Because I was even telling someone, I was like, yeah, I feel like my dream guy, he might be a teacher, and that's someone that's in that because they love it. They're passionate about that. What are their passions? That's what they want to talk about, not what they have or who they know. It's who they've served, how they've helped their community. People that want to focus on those kind of like, how am I changing the world? How is this person changing the world?
And if they've done any internet research, they're going to know that they're going on a date with someone who sews their own clothes. So,
and that too, that's just like a small thing. It is funny too that, not to brag, but a lot of times I get a compliment on when I get a compliment on what I'm wearing, I can actually be like, oh gosh, this is actually something that I made. So, it's
well,
not about
fun.
the flash.
Yeah, but the sentiment of each partner buying a property before marriage, is that something that you agree with?
I do, but I feel like that's a personal decision just because, take me for instance, I had to have someone show me the way when I bought my first property. It wasn't something that, I knew to do. I didn't think I was able to do. For me, it's more, they don't necessarily have to already have a property. It's the mindset and the mentality. Like they may be a business owner. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of other ways that I don't like to, like categorize someone into things like that. But I would definitely say, like, I think it's a good idea. Like, I love the idea of not spending all that money on a wedding. I love how he's like, hey, all of our tenants pretty much paid for the wedding and they weren't even invited to the wedding. So that was a good way to put it. You're using a self-replenishing supply of money to pay for, a wedding instead of the backwards opposite way that people are just saving on money that should have been spent on down payments and things like that on a party, pretty much.
No, I love it. A link to Alex E. Edwards' book is in our show notes. Go to stackingdeeds.net/show notes.
Is that the phone ringing?
It is, which means it's time for the last segment of the day. Why don't you pick that up, Crystal? Let's see who's ringing Ruth's Rotary today.
Hi, Crystal and Alan. This is Tiffany. I wanted to ask, I don't have a lot of money in my savings, but I do have quite a bit in my 401k. Is it a good idea if I should cash that money out to buy a house?
Thank you for your question, Tiffany. Thanks for listening. And I definitely have a little bit of experience with this because I actually did something similar, but I know you don't want to cash out because that'll be a huge tax implication, huge tax hit for you. And if you listen to our previous episode, our tax day episode, we're in it for the tax benefits, not the tax hits. Right, Alan?
Yeah, there's definitely a early withdrawal penalty if you pull from 401k, but there are alternatives if you want to access that money and avoid that penalty and the tax hit. The purpose of the 401k is protecting you from taxes until you're 59 and a half years old. So that's what we're trying to work around. A great solution is you can actually get a loan or earmark access to your 401k to buy a house. Now, there's going to be some regulations and some loopholes and some paperwork you're going to have to fill out, but what you're doing is accessing that 401k, avoiding the fees and the penalties that Crystal's talking about. So when you did this, Crystal, how did you go about it?
Yeah, so this was a great tool for me. You get to take out a residential loan. Most 401ks allow for a residential loan, and you get to set how long you pay it back, and you actually pay yourself back with interest. And the interest rate is usually crazy, crazy, stupid low. Like it's very cheap money. It's very accessible to you too. And you have to provide, they give you about, I want to say, definitely call your 401k administrators, and they'll help walk you through the paperwork because I know for ours, they give us like 2 years to close on the house. So you get the money quickly, but you also have time to shop and time to close. So within a certain time period, you have to provide that statement after you close. And then that's it. It comes out of your paycheck automatically. It's set and forget. And then you pay yourself back. And you also earn interest on what you are paying back.
So you're paying them back to the 401k account that you withdrew from. So look at your
Yes.
401k balance, sort of like a credit card, and you get an advance of that credit card. You got to pay back that credit card over time.
Mhm.
It works the same way with 401k. I was actually in a situation where I bought a house. The person sold it to me with 0% down seller financing. He put the house in the name of his 401k, and I had to make payments to his 401k account. So you can get really creative with this. And I don't know whether he still owed money on his 401k or it was written off and he just moved it over to his 401k. But it was 100% seller financing in the name of so-and-so's 401k trustee account. And I had to make my mortgage payments to that. So he was getting really creative with using this sort of piggy bank that he didn't want to access those funds. He wasn't going to get those funds, but he found ways to pull the equity out of that, invest it in real estate, and then get paid back. And he thought that method was going to be more advantageous than just investing in the stocks within his 401k. And that's
Right.
how I look at it. I really do think that if you are passionate and interested and really understand real estate, you can double, triple, quadruple the money that you would in your 401k. It just takes more effort. That's what I love about the 401k. It's effortless. But just like anything, you're not going to make as much money if it's easy, right? So if you're willing to put a little bit more work in, understand the loopholes and how creative you can get, it's really not absurd to quadruple the amount of money in your 401k account.
And that's a fact. And remember, we are saying you're doing this for real estate. I've known people that have pulled out 10K out of their 401ks to renovate a basement, and then they turn that into income producing. Now you're using a new stream of income to pay that loan back. You're not using it to go on vacation, or pay off credit cards or go out to eat. You're using it to produce another stream of income, and that's going to pay itself off over that loan.
Yeah, it's like buying an asset that pays for itself. Yeah, It's going to pay
Yes.
itself off and then pay you moving forward. And there's one last thing I want to cover, that if there's a financial hardship, you can always access your 401k penalty free. And many times they'll consider buying a house, your first primary house, a financial hardship or an emergency situation. There are some guidelines around that. So ask the right questions and make sure you do the paperwork appropriately. So this is a long way of saying, Tiffany, yes, use your 401k, but get creative and don't just pull it out and pay the penalties. That's the long and short of it.
Right. Education. Educate yourself. Get to know that program. Talk to your other coworkers. Maybe, someone smart that's done this for a housing purpose, and they'll tell you.
All right. Well, I think that does it for today's show. Crystal, what were some of your favorite parts today?
I can't believe it's another wrap. So I loved chatting with Alex about I could talk about dating all day and, screening, how to screen someone. And I did also like how he said a lot of times you get intimate with someone before you talk about the real intimate thing, and that should be finances. So get right in there or learn those questions or learn how to, those feelers to know, okay, this person is horrible with money, I have to run, or this person is great.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with modern dating just because I got married before the apps and everything and the conversations now. So I feel like I live vicariously through you, Crystal. Yeah, I would love talking to Alex. But I'm always a sucker for creative financing. So Tiffany's question, it gets my mind racing. Like, yeah, I've got this access. How can let's do home equity lines of credits. Let's do credit card advances. I try to access money wherever I can to go buy more real estate. But yeah, I'm not buying the fashion labels to impress a date. I'm buying an asset that will pay itself back. And then once it pays itself back through the cash flow, then it starts paying me. So those sort of creative strategies I can nerd out on all day. Let's throw it over to Doug and say, Doug, what should the listeners have learned today?
So, what should we have learned today? First, take some advice from Alex E. Edwards and don't hesitate to talk credit scores on your first date to build a solid matrimonial foundation. First date? Second, 401ks can be used as a piggy bank. Make sure you contact your 401k provider to make sure all the I's are crossed and the T's are dotted to avoid any early withdrawal penalties. But the big lesson? Zookeepers have short tempers. Must be the natural gifts thrown at them from within the monkey exhibit. Maybe those guys will appreciate my zucchini dancer. It's back to dating robots for me. Thanks to our hosts, Crystal Hammond and Alan Corey. They can be found online at Condo Crystal and at Real Estate Maxi. Our producer and audio editor is what makes the real magic happen, thanks to Jasmine Radler and Steve Stewart. Thanks to Alex E. Edwards for joining today. You can find out more about his work in our show notes. We'll include links at stackingdeeds.net/show notes. I'm Neighbor Doug. See you next week.